My name is Serena, and today I'd like to talk about my placement experience in relations to the AITSL standards. In this video, the curriculum area I'd like to focus on is English. In this area, I have created unit plans with a focus on reading, spelling, and persuasive writing. Developing professional standards for teachers is really important as they can guide professional learning, practice, and engagement facilities. The key elements of quality teaching are described in the standards. There are 7 professional standards. Know students and how they learn, know the content and how to teach it, plan for and implement effective teaching and learning, create and maintain supportive and safe learning environments, assess, provide feedback, and report on student learning, engage in professional learning, and finally, engage professionally with colleagues, parents or carers, and the community. The first standard I'd like to talk about is Standard 3, plan for and implement effective teaching and learning. The focus areas include establishing challenging learning goals, plan, structure, and sequence learning programs, use teaching strategies, select and use resources, use effective classroom communication, evaluate and improve teaching programs, and engage parents or carers in the educative process. In the persuasive text unit, I collaborated with my peer in the planning process. We started with lessons where we assessed the students' prior knowledge of persuasive text. Then we created learning experiences where children expressed their opinions on different topics and had hands-on experience of persuading their classmates. This was followed by lessons with a focus on audience, convincing language, and forming sound arguments. After these lessons, students would produce a persuasive letter with a topic and an audience of their own choice. Throughout the units I have developed in English, I have made use of different teaching strategies in my lessons. For example, I had constantly made use of questioning in my teaching. There are mainly 2 types of questions in this strategy, namely open questions and closed questions. In my lesson focusing on the concept of audience, I asked closed questions like, who is the audience in this letter? And open questions like, why is this an appropriate or inappropriate audience in this letter? I found these 2 graphs very helpful in my teaching when responding to students' answers. These strategies on accepting, partially accepting, and not accepting answers were very useful for me to provide instant feedback. Standard 4 is create and maintain supportive and safe learning environments. This standard is about supporting student participation, managing classroom activities, managing challenging behavior, maintaining student safety, as well as using ICT safely, responsibly, and ethically. In my lessons, I put a great emphasis on visual cues, as I found that having these cues allowed students to have a clearer understanding on what they had to do, which made this class run a lot more smoothly. For example, I would leave task instructions on the PowerPoint and leave the slide on as the students worked. Behavior management was something I struggled the most in the beginning. My supervising teacher suggested that I do not talk over the children, which was something I did not realize I was doing until she said it. I revisited a reading chapter assigned to us called Responding to Violations of Rules and Procedures, and I picked up a few strategies, such as praising a positive behavior that competes with a negative behavior. And I also started using the class motto of respect in my feedback to redirect the class. In one of my first lessons, I inserted a YouTube link in the PowerPoint I prepared. My supervising teacher pointed out that a better way would be downloading the video before showing it in class, because sometimes the links could be hacked and the students might then be exposed to inappropriate content. I took her advice and started paying closer attention to using ICT safely and responsibly. Standard 5 is assess, provide feedback, and report on student learning. There are 5 focus areas in the standard. They are assess student learning, provide feedback to students on their learning, make consistent and comparable judgments, interpret student data, and report on student achievement. During my units in English, I provided verbal and non-verbal feedback to students. I made use of the feedback model and the formative assessment model. For example, in my persuasive unit, some students only provided arguments in a single sentence without elaboration. I first used the formative assessment model and addressed the questions of where the learner is going, where the learner is right now, and how to get there. Then I would use the feedback model. I reinstated learning goals, which is to provide convincing arguments to persuade others. Then I would let students know how they were going. For example, some of the students had interesting points, but they lacked supporting reasons. Then I would ask prompting questions to assist them to elaborate on their arguments. With my spelling lessons, after I have marked the students' work, I would hold conferences with each student, discussing their mistakes, clarifying their misunderstandings, as well as asking them to do corrections. Here, when discussing the mistakes the student made in contractions, I prepared letter cards and punctuation cards to assist with my explanation. I instructed the students to replace certain letter cards with an apostrophe card and then push the two words together so that the students could have a better understanding of the concept through visual cues. All in all, I had a wonderful experience with my placement, and I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to put the theories I have learned throughout the course into practice. Thank you very much for watching.